Hello, everybody. My name is Polikakhina Polina Gennadievna, and I'm a senior student in civil engineering, getting ready to graduate in June of this year. We've been talking today about this idea of impossible firsts, that access to opportunities like higher education can create new possibilities for the world. And it certainly has for me, because 6 or 7 years ago, I did not think it would be possible for me to go to college in the United States. But let me tell you a little bit of my story. I was born and raised in eastern Russia in a city called Khabarovsk. Khabarovsk is a similar population to Portland's. Khabarovsk is actually a sister city with Portland, but hey, I don't think that many of you have even heard about this place before. When I was 17, right after I graduated from high school, I moved with my family to Anchorage, Alaska. I barely spoke any English, but my parents spoke none, so I started working at a restaurant to help my family and to save for college. I had good enough scores on my high school graduating exams to attend a prestigious college for free, given that higher education is public in Russia. But I had no idea how I can possibly afford an education in the United States without burdening myself in student loans. I have to tell you that moving to Anchorage was quite a traumatizing experience. Everything and everyone felt alien to me, and I really missed my friends. I felt very detached from the people around me because everyone drove too much, and I would meet more moose on the streets than pedestrians, which is true. I was shocked by the fact that it was impossible to live in Anchorage without a car. My hometown had twice as much population as Anchorage, but I could easily walk or take public transit anywhere I needed because Russian cities are designed to be more compact. My family had never owned a car in Russia. I thought that I would be interested in becoming a civil engineer so that I can work at making transportation systems more efficient. Even though Alaska is an incredibly beautiful state, after a couple years of living there, I realized that I wanted to move somewhere else because I felt too secluded. I chose Portland because good people told me it's a great city, and I trusted them, as well as I heard that you can bike around Portland, which is something I always wanted to try. I received enough federal financial aid for me to get started, and I began taking a couple classes at PSU. But let me tell you about one morning that completely changed my life. After a couple of weeks, the fall term started. I was hit by a car while riding my bicycle. I flew over the car and I landed on my head, but my helmet cracked instead. Putting on a helmet that morning was probably the most important thing I have ever done in my life. Even though I was very lucky to survive this accident, I received a very serious concussion and I was unconscious for 2 weeks. It took me a very long time to recover, but I was able to start attending PSU again the following year. My memory was not as good as prior to the accident, which made it difficult for me to study. On top of that, the language barrier made it even harder, which I'm sure any international student can relate to. However, I had a lot of passion for my degree, so I studied hard while working part-time as a restaurant busser. For the first 2 years at school, I did not think it was possible to have life outside of working and studying. The only way I was able to maintain a high GPA was through many sleepless nights. I'm sure that any student in this room knows what I'm talking about. Though my sophomore year, I got involved with some extracurricular activities. I worked slightly fewer hours thanks to this money that I saved over the summer, and I took an officer position with the Society of Women Engineers, became a mentor for the incoming engineering students, and participated in some student competitions. I had a lot on my plate, which wasn't easy, but I was very grateful for all the experiences I gained. I really enjoyed participating in these activities, and I wished I could dedicate more time to them, but I could not because of my school and workload. At the end of my sophomore year, I was running out of money to pay for college, and I was getting ready to take out a student loan. However, one morning, I received a call that changed my life forever. I learned that I received the Nancy Ryle Scholarship, which helps students who experience obstacles in their education to return back to school. This news made me cry from relief and happiness. I know that the board members for the scholarship are present here tonight. Thank you. Your support not only made it possible for me to continue my education, but it also allowed me to take on the role of the PSU Steel Bridge captain. Steel Bridge is an annual competition for which students are tasked with designing and fabricating a bridge on a 1:20 scale. No doubt, this experience was the biggest challenge I have ever faced in my life. It was 9 months of round-the-clock work. But it wasn't just me who worked so hard. I recently thought that if I were to sum up all of the time the students around the world have put into this competition over the recent years, it probably would have been enough time to pave a road to the moon. But it all paid off because our PSU team won first place in the regional competition, and then we placed in the top, thank you. And we placed in the top 6% in the world when we traveled to nationals. Thank you. This is my 5th year at PSU. Nancy Riles was the first scholarship that I received, but there was a number of others, like Tiger Stop or Batur Family, which I was awarded this year. Thank you. So much of what I have achieved was made possible thanks to the generous support of donors like you. I recently looked back at my experience at PSU and I did some math like a standard engineer would do. Over the past 4 years, I served as an officer of 3 engineering clubs, mentored 2 most recent Steel Bridge teams, collected hundreds of emails from students signing up for various teams and clubs, worked as a tutor for 3 quarters, assisted with an engineering research, participated in making a floatable canoe out of concrete, and organized a countless number of different events. Over the past 2 years, I also completed 2 internships in transportation engineering and planning. It's not an exaggeration to say that the scholarships have changed my life. They were the reason I was able to take advantage of these opportunities. They were the only reason I was able to become a leader on campus. The support of donors like you allowed me to not be stressed about making money, but rather focus on my education and giving back to the PSU community. As a kid, I don't think I could have ever dreamt about receiving a STEM education in a foreign country. However, in June of this year, I'm planning to graduate with my engineering degree with a GPA of 3.86. Thank you. And before I wrap up, I wanted to share some very exciting news with you about another impossible first in my life. 2 weeks ago, I received an offer for a job of my dreams for after I graduate. I will be working with a transportation engineering and planning company, and I'm dreaming about making Portland more safe and friendly for pedestrians, bicyclists, and transit users. Thinking of this future for myself and for our city fills me with a lot of excitement. I believe that when we work together to make a better future for ourselves and for our communities, we can make the impossible possible. To the donors, thank you so much for everything you have done for me and for others like me. And to my fellow students, I hope that you can also find the support and inspiration you need to make your dreams come true. Thank you.